Say it
Thank
again.
you again, Elsie, for that. Thank you. And now as we move into our talk slash and or meditation time, this is going to be a tag team. It's going to be Elsie, and Nancy is going to share with us some as well. So I am going to turn this over to Elsie, and I'm sure Elsie and Nancy, you guys will take it from here. So we thank you. We love both of you, and I can't wait. I'm excited.
I'm the warm up of. I want to hear Nancy share some beautiful. Nancy always shares some beautiful truth with us. I'm excited. But Elle asked me to share a little bit today, and we do. Not that we just celebrate this one specific day in Pride Month, and not that we just celebrate Pride Month inside of the year. We are always saying, like Elle said, we love our LGBTQ IAA plus, and don't forget anybody in that. And I don't say that flippantly. I say it because we want to make sure everybody knows that the plus, we include you all. If we can't slap a letter on it, we just want to love you and hug you. But what I want to share today, I can't speak from being a direct part of the LGBT community. That's not my existence, and that's perfectly okay. What I do want to share from is a place where many of us do get to share from, and that's a place of allyship, a place of people who stand alongside our LGBT brothers and sisters, and we lift hands and we say, we love you and we got you. How can we serve you? What can we do to be better versions of ourselves? Because as we're better versions of ourselves, that allows us to be better servants and better helpers in the LGBT community, in the fight for equality, in the fight for recognition, in the fight to say love is love, right? So what I'm going to talk to you about is not directly related to the LGBT of itself, but we're going to get to that. I'm just giving you a little warm up because Nancy's going to bring the right reverend's going to bring some truth to us today. But what I want to say is this. I want to say two words to you about your growth, about where you are now, where you come from, and where you're going, because we know, as even science is telling us now, right? This is an expansive universe. We had this idea that the universe just sort of set, and there it was, but no, as we've gone on, science says, no, the universe is expanding. Well, guess what? You're part of that universe, As within, so without, as above, so below. We could not possibly be static creatures here on this planet. It doesn't exist. We are growing, we are expanding. So in that, knowing that who we are is expanding across time, so is our consciousness, so is our spirituality, so is our truth as we unpack it. We're expanding. So my two words for you today are this: be open. Those are my two words for you today. Be open. I have come a very, very long way in my view of the world, and specifically in this moment as we are celebrating Pride. I'm on both sides of my rainbows going on. I love it. Nell's got hers in the background. Growing up the way I did, growing up in hardcore old line Pentecostalism, old holiness churches, and Elle and I were actually talking about this week. When I was young, I didn't even know what gay was. I'd never heard that term. I didn't know that term until I was well into my teen years. So to say that I came out of a place where I thought that was somehow wrong or bad, no, it didn't even exist in my world. I wasn't aware of that. But when you get into your teenage years, you start forming your own opinion, you start going places, you're doing things. What I became fully aware of, that in my world where I existed at the time, that was one more sin to add to the list of things that were bad. That was one more thing to add to the list that was going to send you to hell, all these things that were, I heard a great term this weekend on Tony's call. My friend Paula, she used the phrase, loaded and coded. I came loaded and coded to have that thought. It was in me. I had never said, let me take all this and put it in here. No. I was loaded and coded to have this thought. Well, looking back, and we all do this in our own ways, as we look back, we recognize before we were even conscious of what was going on in our life, the universe was slowly pulling things into our existence, right? Things we didn't understand at the time, things we couldn't unpack, but they showed up. So my journey starts going along, and I'm thinking, well, now I have friends who are telling me they're gay, they're Christian, they're coming out to me and going, what do I do with this? They're awesome people. I don't think they're bad people. But Loaded and Coded was talking over here. Loaded and Coded said, okay. As I continue to expand, what happens? My eyes open, the blinders go off a little more. If you've been in big cities and seen them with the carriage rides, they have the horses with the blinders on, so they don't get to see out here. They're distracted. They look right ahead. Well, sometimes we have those spiritual blinders on. We aren't able to process wrong. Take those blinders off. My world started becoming more open to things. Well, guess what? One of my best friends in the world, who I served in Christian ministry with, comes out to me, tells me, I've been in the closet for all these years. I've known I was gay since I was a kid. Wow, what do I do? Well, what the universe is doing, and it's weaving these two threads together. It's weaving this flesh me and this God me together, and it's saying, forget Loaded and Coded. You know who that person is. You know their heart. You know them. You love them. And so you see the strings start getting pulled. The fabric of God me, God LC, and flesh LC are starting to go like this. Okay, I see it. So here I am. I'm still in my mid-20s, and I'm condensing this into a little thing. I want to get to Nancy real quick. As I'm growing, guess what? As I open myself up, I am attracting more of the things that I truly want. What do I truly want? Love, peace, acceptance, joy, happiness, unity. That's what I want. And this is where the disconnect comes. We don't get what our head says. We get what our soul vibrates. This thing can want $1 million. If this thing's coming into agreement with poverty, guess what? $1 million is never going to show up no matter how hard you work. My head was saying, Loaded and Coded. My heart was saying, oh, these are my beautiful friends. I love them. They're here. Well, we keep on the journey. So now Terry and I bail on the church for a while. We're like, I can't stand that the church judges this. I can't stand it. Well, we found a beautiful affirming church. And Nancy was part of that church as well. Peace Church. Beautiful congregation. That's actually how we met Nancy. And so we start going to a church. They go, yeah, of course it's okay. Of course it's who you're. Beautiful. Well, you do that, and guess what? I marry into a family, and I have my beautiful, fabulous brother-in-law, very openly gay, very confident in who he is. And I'm thinking, all right, I get it. Like the string has been pulled tighter now of this idea that I was and who I am now, and it pulls them together. That is what so that fast forwards today, and of course, my life would be empty without all my LGBTQ folks in my life. I love them, and I bless them. And what I came to realize at some point is they weren't a distant part of my life. They were very, very close. They're people that I contact on a daily basis, people who I break bread with, people who I love and embrace and hold. What happened is, as we expand and we attract what we're truly vibrating, your world gets filled up with that. Your world gets filled up with people who are loving and people who are sweet, people who are passionate. And guess what? They just happen to be LGBT. That's just a part of who they are. It's part of their existence. It doesn't define us in any way other than it's just a beautiful extension of who we are. So what I'm saying, I said these two words, and then I want to wrap up so Nancy can share. I want to hear. Be open. Be open in this season you're in right now to things that are vibrating from here, that are bypassing this thing. Let this thing shine. Let this thing be the beacon to the universe. Say, please, more of this. Why? Because as we expand, as we grow, then we're able to touch more people. We're able to get out. We're able to touch more people. We're able to expand. And what are we expanding? Not just consciousness, but we're expanding love. We're expanding the reach of love, the intensity of love, and the very nature of who we're put here to be. This little God in me thing we talk about, these little flesh suits full of spirit. We get to expand. So I love you all. I'm grateful for you. Nancy, I'm specifically grateful for you today because I've seen you on the camera. And I want you to share some deliciousness with us.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Thank you, Elsie. I had to excuse myself. I was getting hot. I needed to turn my air down. Thank you, Elsie, so much for those wonderful words. And I feel so honored that Elle asked me to speak today. And when I asked her, I said, Elle, I can be long-winded. I said, Elle, how much time do I have? She said, oh, 10 to 12 minutes. Well, I asked myself, how in the world do I condense 56 years of dealing with being gay into just a few minutes? But I'm going to try. So, Elsie, if I go over, just get the hook and pull me off. So, the title of my little information is Nancy's Coming Out Stories. So I'm going to just try to cover some of the highlights, cover progress we've made, and things that we need to do. What is an interesting thought is straight folks don't need to come out. In the 60s, my first partner and I did not know any other gay folks. And we were just two very young in our 20s, very fearful. My parents threatened to expose my partner to her employer, and she even left a job she loved out of fear. They also spread untrue rumors about me, telling the whole community that I had gone wild and was promiscuous. During this time, I felt totally torn between my partner and my parents. And there were ministers, there were church folks calling me, trying to pray that I would change. And even one minister's wife called me and said she was moved by the Holy Spirit to call me and see if I wanted to be a nurse in Nicaragua. I don't think so. And that was just to get me away. During this time when I was just 21 was so painful that I was suicidal. I was meant to be here for the Right Reverend Chadwick to come through. Unfortunately, as you all may know, gay teens and young adults commit suicide 4 times other people. Why? Studies have shown that religious condemnation of homosexuality is a major factor because the religious convictions, like our current vice president, causes mothers and dads to reject and exile their sons and daughters. And this can lead them to hate themselves and thus take their own lives. Think about it. If you tell a gay person that if they actually have sex, they will go to hell forever, you just as well put a loaded gun in their hands. So I feel, and studies show many religions and churches, not unity, have caused the self-hatred, the hopelessness, and suicides of many gay folks. Let me say something really strongly. Conversion therapy does not work, and it can cause a GLBTQ person to indeed commit suicide as a result of the stress this can cause. Hey, I saw a very well-known psychiatrist in the 70s for 3 years. He tried his best to convert me to straight. It did not take. Then I had to see another therapist to really accept and love myself as a gay woman. My previous partner and I finally did meet some other gay folks. Interesting, there was an organization in Atlanta called Dignity for gay folks who happened to be Catholic. So we started meeting more people. Then moving on up into the early 80s, my previous partner and I were both members. It was North Decatur Presbyterian Church in Decatur. And they had a discussion group coming up on the beliefs about homosexuality. I had a strong need to go to this group and come out and share my thoughts. My previous partner was very paranoid and she didn't want to do it, but she knew it was important to me. Well, this part is a little funny. So before I went to the meeting, I made sure I wore a dress, makeup, and I did not look like a butch truck driver. So I say that to say there is prejudice and stereotypes even among GLBTQ people. And I know you've probably heard the same thing with Black folks. Well, he's not white enough. He's not Black enough. And I am really trying to accept everyone. And hey, we're not all just alike, you know. Then moving on up to 1990, I joined Unity Atlanta Church. Before I joined, I had a conversation with the minister. I said, hey, what about the gay issue? He said, it's a non-issue. Cool, sign me up. So then in 94, after separating from my partner of 29 years, let me add to that there are not many straight folks that can claim 29 years together. And it was without support. But after separating from her, honey, I needed to come out. I came out to dozens of folks in the first week. I went to Unity service and got there early. I looked at the person next to me. I didn't know her. And I said, hey, I'm Nancy and I'm gay. She said, my daughter is too. I said, go figure, small world. Then moving on up, mid 1995, I attended my first ever in Atlanta Gay Pride March. Well, I was so hipped up on it. Honey, I created 300 t-shirts to sell. I only sold a dozen. And I don't know if you all can see it, but I have one left. Let's see if I hold it. Let me see. Let's see. Can you see it or is it backwards? What it says.
It looks good, Nancy. We can see it.
Oh, you can read it. I'm reading it. But out of the closet with my angels. On the back, free at last. Well, you would have thought I would have sold and sold. But if you're gonna wear that shirt, you got to be pretty comfortable with yourself. So there are many of those shirts distributed through the Goodwill. I'd love to see where they ended up. But anyway, back to the march. And I lived here at the time, so I stayed with my mother and dad that weekend. And my dad was very disabled from a stroke. And all I told my mother, because she knew I was gay, but I didn't want to deal with it. She said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to a march. What kind of march? For human rights. Well, she finally got it out of me. Well, I hope you won't tell your dad because it would just kill him. That's what she said to me. Thank God I had Patty and Jackie to meet me at the march. But I will tell you that march was very emotional for me as I passed the place of my birth, Crawford Long Hospital. It was healing for me to do it. I've attended one other march. It was in Greenville several years ago, and I had some friends up there. They were afraid to march because they were afraid they would lose their jobs. And they had all of these people on top of the buildings with shotguns in case. And there were these street ministers with signs, you know, and wearing black, going to hell. But I was so glad I could do it. Well, moving on up, my most favorite coming out story. I worked at ANMED in the early 2000s, and I became friends with Chaplain George West, a wonderful, loving man. Ended up becoming friends and coming out to him. Well, he taught chaplain residents. So he had me come and do a class, and it was about sexuality and caregiving. So, of course, I wore a dress. And initially, I did not share that I'm gay. So one of the last times I was talking to George before the class, George said, Nancy, you need to go ahead and be yourself. You sure, George? Yes. So I did. During that class, I explained to them, this was real important to me, there's a huge difference in lifestyle and sexual orientation. I put 2 columns. Lifestyle is chosen. You can be promiscuous, monogamous, or celibate. However, one's sexual orientation is how we're wired in our brains, GLBTQ or otherwise. So I was really kind of glad. It felt freeing that Chaplain George encouraged me to come out. And I had so much fun. And these residents, 5 residents, were so accepting. So what we ended up doing, and I told them I had grown up Baptist, and I said, sometimes I rewrite the songs. Y'all have heard me sing the I'll Fly Away, changing the words to Some Glad Morning when this, I'll say I'm gay. Honey, he took us all into the little chapel. I played the piano, and he had all of them singing that song with me. That was fun. And and they were very kind. One of the ministers there, he said, I would have thought you were the wife of a Baptist minister. And I laughed. That's what my mama wanted. But anyway, that was very healing for me. Now, the next one was not so good. This was a huge coming out story. I was still working at ANMED, and they had this new woman as head of diversity. Well, she led the most wonderful workshops, and she was looking to have an employee volunteer to be on the diversity team. I thought, that's for me. Well, I went to lunch with this woman and told her my story. Oh my gosh, what a mistake. I believe she was Methodist, but extremely rigid. She put me down, preached to me, and said, last thing she said to me as we came back in the parking lot, she said, I just don't know how you can live with yourself. And I said, I can't quote you scriptures from the Bible, Juana, but I said, I can tell you this, God loves me just the way I am. It was a shock. It was a shock. But I'll tell you this real quickly. Later, and I believe I had already left ANMED, they had a showing of the Matthew Shepard play at the Electric City Playhouse. She led the discussion afterwards. Honey, I was ready for her. My hand was ready to be raised, and one of her first questions was, do you think the church influences this, whatever? Oh, I shot off. I got out all my feelings. So that was very helpful. So here's the thing. We've come a long ways in terms of rights. And just looking back, some of you may or may not know, why June Pride Month? Well, I take us back to June 1969, the uprising of Stonewall. There were residents of New York City in Greenwich Village, and the LGBTQ folks rejected the police violence against their community and protested institutional anti-gay LGBT oppression. Now, as you probably know, gay folks can marry, adopt children, and in some churches and circles like ours, be embraced and accepted. And it's just 5 years ago, June the 26th of 2015, a group of LGBTQ plaintiffs won the right to marry by the U.S. Supreme Court. That was huge. This January, I attended a very large wedding of 2 friends, Betty and Shirley, at an Episcopal church in Dahlonega. This was very healing and emotional for me. Not only did this church accept the wedding of these 2 women, they celebrated, which was beautiful, and both women had children and grandchildren. They were all there. Still, even with all of the progress we've made, there's ignorance, there's hatred, there's discrimination. Some states have hate crime laws, others don't. And just this week, the Georgia Governor Kemp signed a hate bill. So now there are only 3 states that do not have hate bills, and South Carolina is one of them. Sad to say. And also just this month, the Supreme Court passed a landmark decision allowing, and I'll say this about all the letters. When I was coming along, it was somebody was gay or they were not. They were gay or they were not. Now you got all these letters. So here's what I've done. LGBTQRXYZ. That way that everybody's included. But anyway, the Supreme Court wrote a landmark decision allowing us folks to work without fear of being fired simply for being ourselves. And this question came to my mind this afternoon. Do you think we can mandate people to not discriminate or people not to hate? We can't. We can have laws, and we are in such a chaotic and uprising to do with the police and Black Lives Matter. And I became aware as I was writing through this, my gosh, I've had prejudices and biases and God bless a lot of the gay boys. I mean, they do entertain us. Some of the drag queens, I'd love to go to a good drag queen show. And they're great. But the thing is, we're all unique. We're all unique. And I want to say, all GLBTXYZ folks, all we want is to be accepted, to have equal rights and equal justice. And let me say this so strongly. I have felt so much love from Unity Spiritual Center of Clemson Anderson, from each and every one of you, not only to do with gay, but you just embrace me for me. And I still am somewhat this way. I don't just come out to everybody. I use discernment. My preference is for somebody, get to know me as a person. That's just a little piece. If you had listened to my mother, my God, I was having sex every day with everybody. So that myth. And also, I'm thinking about myself. I think it's the era from which I came. Now they've added that Q to LGBT. I do not like the Q word. It's like Black folks don't like the N word because for me, it has a very negative connotation. Somebody else, it includes who they are. I will tell you this, despite all the discrimination and hardship I've had, to me, transgender folks are often the most misunderstood. Frequently, they're the recipients of discrimination, bullying, attacks, and even murders. Since 2015, 17 bills banning transgender folks from entering a bathroom that does not match the gender on their birth certificate have been introduced. So the whole thing is, we've come a long ways, but there's still ways to go. And I know you all do this. I mean, if somebody tells a derogatory gay joke, you just speak up and say, I don't like that. I don't like that. And same thing for police. They're not all bad. There are a lot of good policemen. We just need to weed out the ones that are not so good. So, I mean, I just appreciate all of you and the love that you have shared with me and allowed me to just be totally myself. You've been there with me through ups and downs and sideways and front ways. And I know, and this I'm not going to get into. I know we're having a meeting soon, and if our little church has to fold, it will be sad to me. But I will always hold in my hearts all of you, and the love and the light that you are to me. I just appreciate all of you. Thank you for letting me share. And I'm open to any questions, but I'm preaching to the choir. I mean, y'all are great. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. I love you.
I'm going to jump in and we're just going to sing a little quick line here. We need to sing a quick song because
Okay.
it's just who we are right now. So we're going to sing. You can mute yourself. We're just going to sing this real quick. I think it goes right in line with what Nancy was saying.
All right.
I am free, free to be me. I am free, free to be me. Free to be all I was created to be. Free to choose the blessing, everything I see. I am free. I am free. I am free. I am free. I am free.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Elsie and Nancy, for sharing. Thank you so much. And it is, as I was sitting there listening, the thought came to my mind, you know, I didn't grow up in a home like that either. But I think the bottom line is just fear. The people are just afraid. I grew up in a world not of the fear of what you guys, what Nancy, what you went through, but it was a religion thing. I was taught that all religions but one were all bad. And I became friends with a lot of people that were not the same with me. And I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be. As Elsie said, you know, the blinders came off. I had a Jewish friend. I'm like, wait, that can't be. You know, I had a Methodist friend just like that. And I'm like, wait, this can't be right. This can't be true. But then I realized it was just fear. That's all it was. Still is. They're just afraid. And to be open and say, I am afraid. And then you'll dig into what you're afraid of and why you're afraid. When we know better, we do better, right? So thank you for sharing that, Nancy. Thank you so much. Thank you, Elsie. And I appreciate that you feel Unity Spiritual Center, the people, which of course that's what the center is anyway. It's the people. And I thank you for the love you feel. I thank you. Because we do love you. We love you.